This week we're talking about Parvati. So this is the goddess of feminine fertility, divine power. So in some of these postures, you might notice that you want to kind of explore your strength in some of them, and feel free to do that. Yeah, and we'll go ahead and get started. So again, maybe find, we're gonna start on our backs. I'm gonna move to my mat, which is far away, so I might not be able to see you as well. We're gonna start lying on our backs. If you are pregnant, you might wanna do this on an incline. I will show that option. Otherwise, we're gonna start on our backs in constructive rest. So your feet will be as wide as the mat and knees tented in. And what that looks like on the bolster is very similar. Maybe a block flops out from underneath. You have to adjust. That's all right. So find, if bending your knees doesn't feel comfortable on your back, find something that does. And we'll just arrive here in this posture in your physical space. Taking a deep inhale in through the nose. And exhale, sigh it out the mouth. See if you can soften into whatever prop that you are in. Whether it's the floor, a bolster. We'll hold poses for longer. Know that you are always offered the option to shift your pose, even if I don't check in or say anything. You know what your body needs more than I do. So see if you can tap into that and honor what your body is needing. Deep inhale in. Full exhale out. We'll be here for about a minute or so of silence as we settle in. Notice here, as you've started to settle, if you're holding tension still in your jaw, maybe wiggle that jaw from side to side, let it relax. Maybe your shoulders. Go back. Do a scan for the next 3 rounds of breath. Just see where your body's at today. We'll start to bring a little bit of movement. If you're fully on your back, maybe stretching legs long, arms long. If you're on a bolster, you can stretch both too. It'll just feel a little bit different. Really do whatever good morning stretch you normally would. Maybe similar to how you wake up out of Shavasana. Just take a couple rounds of breath there. Stretching long. Then we're going to move into a side body stretch. lovingly called banana asana. If you want to do this over a bolster, I'll show that option. Otherwise, from your back, you're going to walk your feet to the bottom right corner, your straight legs to the bottom right corner, your arms to the top right corner, and then ground that left hip back into the mat. So it might have lifted as you've done that. You can bring the left ankle or left foot to the top of the right ankle, grabbing left wrist with right hand. If you're taking over the bolster, if being on your back is not comfortable, maybe you have a smaller bolster. It can go under the ribs, making a similar shape over that bolster. Should feel this stretch through the side, the left side body. Deep inhale in. Full exhale out. I'll check in shortly. See where you can soften. If you're on your back, maybe feet go a little bit further to the right, offering an option to keep finding that edge. Maybe grab that wrist a little bit more. See if that shoulder can go a little bit away from the ear. That'll give you a little shoulder stretch. And then we'll settle back in for a few more moments on this side. If you're over the bolster, maybe shifting the legs, the top arm. Take 5 more rounds of breath wherever you are. After that 5th breath, slowly walk through center, maybe stretching long. If you're on that bolster, maybe leaning onto your back to switch sides. And then walking feet over to the left, arms up overhead to the left, taking that same shape on the other side, and then thinking about that right hip grounding into the mat. It might have lifted up as those feet have walked over. And then if you're on the bolster, again, shifting sides, maybe you have a block by the face to rest your hand on. Maybe something between the knees, see where you can soften. Deep inhale in, full exhale out. Check in on this side. We'll be here for a few more moments. See if you need to go deeper or come out of it. Maybe if you're over that bolster, that arm can reach up overhead. That'll give you more of a little stretch in that armpit area, that side body. If you're on your back, maybe arms go a little bit further to the left. Take about 5 more rounds of breath here. Maybe with that last breath, do a scan, see where you can soften. Easier said than done. A 60-minute class won't allow enough time for us to find all the tension in our body, but maybe we can find it in one place and soften from there. Slowly start to walk towards center. If you're on a bolster, maybe leaning over onto it on your back, opening that chest a little. If you're on your back already, coming through center, and then we'll slowly make our way up to seated however you want. So maybe that's rocking and rolling, maybe you hug knees in. Take about 5 rounds of breath to get there, however feels best to you. We'll arrive in the seated posture with legs out in front of us, so not cross-leg seated, but seated on our seats, feet out in front. We're just going to do some gentle cat-cows here, grabbing those shins. So chest is going to pull forward. You will find you won't get as far as you do from table, but just be okay with that. And then rounding, tucking chin towards chest. Just take this a few times. If it feels better to cross your legs, go for it. It's a little bit of a balance challenge with the legs out. Let's do about 3 more rounds forward and back. Maybe shrugging shoulders to ears. And we'll walk feet a little bit wider, and we're just going to drape over those legs, rounding that low back, rounding that upper back, letting the head hang to your degree. Maybe arms are on those shins. 5 rounds of breath here. Slowly walking to stack shoulders. We're going to leave feet as wide as they are, might be as wide as your mat, and just do some windshield wipers here with the legs. So knees will drop over to the right, maybe pause there, and then over to the left. Take a couple rounds. You'll feel this in the outer hip of the leg that's leaning in. And we're gonna amp this up a little bit. So next time your knees are over to the right, we're going to hold this for about 10 breaths. You can stay here. You have the flexibility and your knees oblige. The outer right blade or the outer edge of the right foot can come to that left knee. The weight of that foot will maybe help it a little. If you're like, hell no, don't do it, put that foot down. You get plenty of a stretch with both feet on the floor. Breathe through the discomfort. Find your Parvati strength. Three more breaths. And then lifting that foot off of the knee, taking those windshield wipers again a few times just to loosen up before we go to the other side. So next time your knees are over to the left, stay there, staying in this shape, or lifting one side's always more difficult. That knee seems very far away. Lifting that left foot onto the right knee very gently. Should feel an extra stretch in that outer right hip. About 8 breaths total here. Notice if your breath is catching. If it's stuck anywhere, maybe you back out of it. Maybe you've gone too far. Couple more rounds of breath. Notice if you're trying to do the pose with your face won't help you. Try to soften that jaw, soften the shoulders. And then slowly, if you have the foot on the knee, lifting it off of the knee, coming back through center. And again, just making any movements that feel good. We're gonna come into a little bit of a prep before our peak pose. Our peak vinyasa pose this week was Warrior 3. So we're gonna do that shape on our backs, a nice restorative version. But to get there, we're gonna do some movement. So you might wanna put a loop into the strap. We're gonna start, you might find that you wanna bend your left knee. I haven't tried this since pregnant, so we'll see how this goes. We're gonna stretch that right foot, put the right foot into the strap and stretch it out in front of us. Just stay here for a few moments. That left leg might need to bend underneath you. We'll just stay here for 3 breaths, maybe a slight bend in the knee if your hamstrings are still tight. And then we're gonna take that left hand to the strap, opening that right arm up for a twist. So if it's uncomfortable to be floating, that right hand can plant on the ground. Really driving through that right heel, lifting the chest. Gaze doesn't have to follow that arm if that's uncomfortable. It can stay at the sternum. 2 more breaths. And then coming back through center, you're gonna wanna plant that left foot most likely on the ground. I'm gonna show this on an incline since I will not be able to get back up once we go down, but we're gonna slowly lower onto the ground, lifting that foot in the air. Using your core, flexing that heel. And then the fun part, we're gonna come back up using the resistance of that foot into the strap, lifting back up, finding that shape, go as slow as you need to, lifting the chest. We'll do that one more time, slowly rolling down, finding the floor, and then slowly pushing into that strap to lift up. Okay, last time we get to stay on the ground, so slowly rolling down. Foot goes into the sky, toes towards the face. Heels flexing through that strap, whatever prop that you might have. And then see if that left leg needs to stay bent, or maybe you can straighten it if that's more comfortable. We'll stay here for about 3 to 5 breaths before we make any other adjustments. Always feel free to walk the hands up the strap as that hamstring softens. And then bringing that right hand to the strap, or maybe both ends of the strap, depending on how you have it set up. We're gonna bring that right leg out to the side, opening it wide, only to the degree that that left hip stays on the ground. Once it lifts up, try to drive it back down. You might find that bending that left knee aids in that. It creates a better counterbalance here. Again, about 5 breaths. Always feeling free to move that leg closer to the face as we're here. See if your shoulders went up to your ears. Try to soften them down the back. One to two more breaths. See if you can let go. Maybe you've gone past your edge and need to back out. And then we'll all start to bring that leg back towards center. Shifting into the left hand, we're gonna cross over for an IT band stretch. This doesn't have to be very far to feel the stretch. So depending on if your leg is bent or straight, might determine how far you go. Driving through that heel will intensify this. So notice if you can go any further with the heel. Three more breaths. And then inhale back through center. We'll stay here for a couple breaths to notice the difference from when we were here a few moments ago. Maybe you walk the hands up the strap where the shoulders come off the mat, and then see if you can stay where the leg is, or the leg can stay where it is as you lower the shoulders down to the mat. 3 breaths here. And then we're gonna get out of this the way we got in, pushing into that strap to lift us off of the ground. If that's not comfortable for you, get up any way that is feasible. So pushing into that strap, rolling up, lowering that leg, removing the strap, maybe shaking out the knees. Then we'll shift to the other leg. So starting with those rolls first, that strap will go to the ball of the left foot, maybe the right knee bends. And we'll just stay, oh, not the rolls, we'll do a twist. I lied. We're gonna start just flexing those the heel between into the strap. Doing great. Taking that strap into the right hand, left arm either goes back behind you or onto the ground behind you. Maybe you find that you can counter that and stretch that chest open a little more. You can also do this with the leg on the ground. Inhale fully. Exhale, maybe get a little bit deeper on the twist. One more breath. And then inhaling back through center. Gonna start doing those slow roll downs here. So heel presses into the strap, rolling to the ground, leg goes up above. And then pushing into the strap to get you off of the ground. One more time going down and back up. Lifting up. Last time we're gonna stay grounded, finding that similar shape that we did on the other side, noticing the differences, making any adjustments. Flexing that heel towards the sky. 3 more breaths. Again, remembering you can make that choice about the right leg. Maybe it's bent, maybe it's straight. And then the strap comes into that left hand, opening out to the left to that degree where that right hip stays grounded. Maybe you bend the knee to create a counterbalance. Softening the shoulders, the jaw. 5 breaths here. And inhale, coming through center, switching the grip, grabbing the strap or your prop with the right hand, crossing over for that gentle IT band stretch. Gentle might not be accurate. So stay with it if you go past the point where you're in pain, or if you're in pain, this should not be painful. Back out of it. Driving through that heel will intensify the stretch. Two more breaths. Inhaling through center, staying at center, noticing any differences. Maybe you can get further up that strap, lifting shoulders and then trying to lower. Here for a couple rounds of breath. And then getting up out of this the same way we got in, pushing into the strap, lifting up using the resistance, and then getting rid of that prop, shaking out those legs if you need to. And we're gonna move to table. So we won't be on the knees long, so if you don't have a blanket, don't worry about it at this moment. But just shifting those hips from side to side. We're gonna move into a posture, we're gonna move into a few postures, pigeon first. So if you want to get into this from down dog, you're more than welcome to. Tuck the toes, lift the hips, maybe walk those heels towards the mat. Or you can do this from table. We'll lift that right leg to the sky first. And then that right knee, maybe you want to open it before we do this. That right knee will go towards the right wrist. That left foot does not have to be parallel to the front of that mat. It's almost better to have it tucked in since we'll be here for a little bit longer. We'll first lift tall, scooch that knee back, maybe looking back, making sure it's in the center of the mat, folding forward. We'll be here for about a minute. See where you can soften. Notice where your mind goes. Maybe try to bring it back to the breath or a mantra. You can always place a prop under that right hip, and you can always take this on your back in figure 4. Where the right ankle would be on top of the left knee. About 30 more seconds here. So see if you need or want to go deeper, or maybe you need to back out. Going deeper might mean removing props, getting lower to the floor. Maybe that left leg walks back further. Then settle back in after you've made those adjustments. Three more breaths. And then slowly start to come out of this as gently as you came in. So bringing hands to rest under the shoulders. We're going to lean over that leg and stay seated. So leaning onto the right hip, helping that left leg around. I'm going to shift my position. You guys stay wherever's comfortable. Coming into Janu Shirshasana, right knee bent, left leg long. Block might be inside of that left leg. We did this in Shannon's class yesterday and I loved it so much I stole it. So we're gonna take that left arm, maybe the forearm, to the block, find some space here, and then that right hand's gonna come to the back of the head, peeling that shoulder open, taking a side bend in Janu Shirshasana. Maybe that arm can get a little deeper, peeling that top arm open. If it feels better for you to stretch that arm long, do that. 3 breaths here. See if you're holding tension. For me, it's in my like low back on the right side, that hip. Send your breath there or wherever you need it. Allow the ribs to expand with each breath. And then slowly stacking, walking up, those shoulders stack over. We're gonna take my favorite little stretch here, leg baby. So bringing that bent, the leg that was on the ground bent, lifting it up to the chest and just starting to rock from side to side. And then if that foot can come into the left elbow crease, you can take that, or you can still just hold on to that right foot as you lean over and give yourself a nice little glute massage. Depending on the surface you're on, you might feel this a little bit more. So if you have a thicker mat or carpet, you might not feel this as intensely. Two more breaths. And we're going to plant that right foot on the inside of the left foot to start. You can stay here, or that foot can go on the outside of the foot. Lots of options here. Last option, that bottom leg bends. We're moving into a twist. So take whatever version of this you need. If you're pregnant, we'll take an open twist. If you're not pregnant, that left arm's going to wrap around the right bent knee. You're going to open, rather close twist to the right. If you're pregnant, taking that left arm behind you for an open twist. Lifting the crown tall. If you're to the right, maybe dropping that right ear to right shoulder, you might get a little neck stretch. Open twist, you might have to do the opposite. And then inhale, lifting that crown, coming back through center, uncrossing the legs, giving them a shake, and then making your way back to down dog. We'll take that all on the other side or table, depending on what you feel comfortable with. So coming into that down dog or table, left leg can either reach high or back behind you, left knee to left wrist. Scooch that right knee back, untuck the toes, finding any props, maybe blocks, maybe a bolster or a pillow, lifting up tall, and then folding forward. I'll check in about a minute. But you know where you can go if you need more. Great place to soften the jaw, wiggling it from side to side. Can make a little place to rest your forehead. If you have blocks, maybe you bend the elbows and bring head into the thumbs. About halfway through this side, making any adjustments, maybe moving props, maybe that back leg goes further. If you have something under the left hip, maybe seeing if it's no longer needed. Or maybe you add something. Maybe you've gone past your edge. Deep inhale in. Full exhale out. See where you can soften. Be here for about 10 more rounds of breath, maybe challenging yourself to actually count those breaths down from 10 with each exhale. Starting to slowly make your way out of this posture. Hands plant under the shoulders, leaning onto that left hip, helping that right leg around. Shifting into that check mark shape with the legs. So left sole of the foot comes into the right thigh. Block there if you need it. And then that forearm can come to the block as you tip over. Maybe hand starts at the hip. You can move to the back of the head, opening the shoulder. Might find one side is not as pliable as the other. That's okay. Peeling that shoulder open, or taking that arm up and overhead, whatever is more comfortable, whatever gives you the best stretch. Almost pushing into the block or the floor to peel open a little bit more. 2 more breaths. And then coming up slowly out of this, moving any props, taking that bent leg into or towards the chest and just rocking it from side to side here. And if you want to go further, leaning into that left hip, foot can come to the crook of the elbow or stay in the hand, just giving yourself a little massage. Three more breaths. And then we'll plant that left foot, taking the twist. Maybe the side needs something different. So again, options are straight leg, or you can bend, and that foot can be on the inside or the outside. We'll lift tall. If you're taking the closed twist, that right hand might come to the left knee, left hand behind you. If you're taking the open twist, right hand behind, left hand maybe to the thigh. And then you can also add that neck stretch if that felt good. Couple breaths here. Slowly coming out of this, winding those shoulders back forward, shaking out the legs. And then our last little stretch here. Actually, we're gonna come into Yogi Squat. So you might want a block or a couple blocks for this, and you can get into this any way you want. So if you wanna come from standing, all the way standing, you can, or maybe just plant the feet coming into a forward fold. Feet will be wide, toes dialing out, heels dialing in, and then you might set up your block set up here, lowering hips towards your support. Hands at heart center if that's comfortable. Knees wide. Notice if the arches try to tuck in, try to peel them up. We won't be here for very long, about 5 rounds of breath. Maybe arms are down, chest reaching tall. Inhale here. Exhale, see if you can soften the shoulders, the hips, the glutes. You can also do this on your back at a wall with the feet pushed up against a wall if this is too much. And then slowly start to release the hands, lifting the hips enough just to move that prop, and then making your way to knees. We're gonna come into a tricep stretch. So it's starting kind of like from child's pose. So you might want blocks. You can do this without any props. Elbows would just be on the floor. Knees as wide as is comfortable. I like the second highest height for the blocks. Elbows will come to those blocks, really the triceps. And then you're gonna push the hips back. Thumbs might come to the upper back. Hips to heels. Ten breaths here. You can do this at a couch, on a chair. You can add a bolster if you need some more height. See if you can get a little bit deeper on each exhale. Maybe you need to walk knees closer or further away to get a different sensation. So trying that for the last 3 breaths, or staying exactly where you are. Slowly start to straighten the arms on the blocks. We're going to stay low in this child's pose, but bringing blocks out in front of us, or just staying on the ground, hands on the ground, flattest side, pushing the hips back, and we're going to add a little twist here. So threading that right arm under the left, you should have a lot of space with that hand on the block. Maybe the temple comes to the other block if you find that your head is floating. And if this is not comfortable on your shoulders, you can stay arms out, stretched in front of you, child's pose. 5 breaths here. Slowly walking that right arm back, stretching it out in front of you. And then switching sides, that left arm threads under right. Maybe before the temple comes to the mat, maybe it's floating or on a block. 5 breaths. Slowly start to make your way back towards center, stretching those arms long. Maybe if your forehead can reach the mat, rocking it from side to side. And then just sitting up, Making your way to your back. Taking any props you might need for final rest. We'll take one last posture here, just a gentle happy baby as you make your way down to the back. You can do this one leg at a time if that's more comfortable, but bringing right foot to right hand, or maybe you grab the calf or the thigh. If you want to do both at the same time, go for it. That heel will reach up towards the sky, even if you're not grabbing at the foot, flexing the foot. If you've taken just one leg, maybe switching to the other. If you're taking both at the same time, maybe pushing feet into the hands to stretch the backs of the shoulders. And then if you want to grab both, if you've only done one at a time, maybe grabbing both. 2 more breaths. Can rock from side to side. And then taking any other postures or movements you need before final rest. And final rest can look many different ways. Maybe it's seated, maybe it's on your belly, maybe it's on that incline. Set yourself up for a place where you can soften. Move things out of the way. Support under the knees. We'll be in silence for about 4 minutes. So as you arrive to this place of rest, take a deep inhale in, maybe tense up those shoulders, the muscles, the hands. Exhale, sigh it out. See if you can soften, at the very least for the next 4 minutes. Slowly start to bring your awareness back to your physical space. And know that if you want and are able to stay in Shavasana, please do so as long as you need. As you start to wake up the body, do so gently, maybe tapping a thumb to each fingertip to wake it up. You can wiggle fingers and toes. Start with small movements and then large. Taking about the next 10 breaths to wake up in whatever fashion you desire. There's no hurry. If you want to tip to one side, you might do that before coming up to seated. But again, take your time. We'll all meet in seated whenever you're ready. You can cross at the ankles. Eyes can be floated closed or slightly floated open. Hands on the knees, maybe palms facing up. Inhale, reach the crown tall, and then exhale, bringing hands to heart center. Thanking yourself and those who practice in community with you today. Namaste in its simplest form means the light in me honors and acknowledges the light within each of you, beautiful beings. Bowing forward to seal your practice. Namaste.